Hello everyone, my name is Julie Wright and I'd like to welcome you to Volume 2 of my readings from Celebrating the Art of Poetry, which includes readings from Units 5 to 8. While the bright faces of the gazanias, the ubiquitous grey wire fences through the bush, and the vivid blue of our sky played a part in the poems in Unit 4, the poems in Unit 5 focus on colour even more intensely. The first is called Yellow, and it celebrates everything this colour brings into our lives. Here it is. Yellow. Yellow shouts aloud with glee, saying, "Look at me, look at me!" But it also offers a word of warning. Caution, caution, danger's looming. Dressed up in its brightest array, yellow is the tone of a summer's day, the sound of a striking symphony of suns playing on the petals of chrysanthemums. Yellow is the colour of endless joys delivered at the birth of my baby boys. Yellow bounces, it can't be contained, it defies definition, it can't be explained. It's the thing that you feel when you break out and squeal. It's the colour of streamers and high-powered beamers and haute couture fashion by the most daring dreamers. Yellow is the way you feel when a dear friend comes to town. They've loved you when you've been a jerk and a humiliating clown. It's the colour of friendship, the special connection that you feel, and relationships like that are a pretty big deal. Yellow is the ribbon round the old oak tree that lets me breathe again because you still love me. And when I feel I'm drowning in a cold, unfriendly sea, yellow wraps me in its robust arms and kindly rescues me. Yellow fills your vision as you're eating soursop stems. It's the colour of summer innocence making daisy chains. Yellow is intense. But there's also mellow yellow, the colour of frosted buttercake and pretty pineapple jello. If you're looking for a colour to become your new best friend, you just can't go past yellow. It's a pleasure without end. Over the years, there have been some tremendous poems based on colour. I would urge you to look them up on the internet and enjoy them. Never take our colourful world for granted. That leads me to the next poem, which follows along that theme of noticing the gift of colour that most of us enjoy every day. Kaleidoscope. God spoke the world into being. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And out of the light he poured forth a kaleidoscope of colours, forming and reforming their intricate patterns across the face of the earth. Defying the darkness with their beauty, like lanterns of endless light, they built a quantum leap of possibilities. Painting the sky with his promise, he has coloured our world eternally with his wondrous palette that will never fade or be washed away, but will blaze anew every morning to awe us as we greet another day. In this poem, colour has been used to introduce the awesome promises of God, evident from the glory of creation and the rainbow he created as a symbol of his promise never to destroy the earth by a flood again. Are you ready for a super challenge? You'll find it on page 29. Dig deep, and I'm sure you'll come up with something special. Symbolism is one of the most meaningful elements of poetry. It can move way beyond colour to include allusions to stories, films, traditions and objects that have acquired particular associations for us over the history of humanity. You may like to watch the videos on my YouTube channels, Julie Wright Australian Poet and Benedictus Publishing, for more on symbolism. Nature certainly brings us an explosion of colour, but it provides us with many other things to contemplate, which are captured in the next unit, Unit 6, called, surprise, surprise, Celebrating Nature. The unit begins with one of my poetic memes. Yes, I said poetic meme. What do I mean by that? I'm glad you asked, because this is something that I've created, and my poetic memes are quite special to me, as they conjure things that I think others can strongly relate to, which are messages that need to be passed on, the way memes are passed through cyberspace, except that, in my case, they are word pictures. The one that fits into this unit is meme number 2. It goes like this. Don't walk past a tree. Enter its presence. Be aware of its strength and its smell, its specific texture telling its stories beneath your fingers as they feel its long history of prevailing. Taste its fruit and hear its song. Know that you and the tree both belong, breathing together, joined forever. The poem accompanying this takes the subject from the general to the specific by singling out a particular gum tree in my street in Warradale. Here is my poem, Grandfather Gum. Grandfather Gum. Grandfather Gum, although you tower over me like the Cyclops towered over mere mortals, your arms are open wide to embrace me, and the light reaches through your outstretched arms and caresses my cheeks. Grandfather Gum, as you pipe me down the street with birdsong, I marvel at all you have seen, standing guard, like God himself, at the gate of that street that has been my personal paradise. I long for you to live forever, to conduct the evening chorus for generations to come. I salute you, Grandfather Gum, your unassuming resilience, your unbroken contract with the harsh summer sun, and your gentle understanding with the wind as you whisper vows of eternal love to each of us as we pass by. Grandfather Gum, I love everything you have ever been and will ever be to me. You keep watch over my goings out and my comings in, and every breath you take is life to me. It is your silent, unspoken love for me that will never fail, because your life has been given for mine, and I thank you. All I have is this poem to honour you, and my love to offer you in return, my dear Grandfather Gum. There is an annotated, downloadable PDF of the poetic devices of this poem available on my website. If you are studying this, you may find it useful as a summarizing tool once you have worked through the exercises. In Unit 7, we celebrate innocence. Naturally, when we think of innocence, our minds turn to children. The first one expresses the joyous remembrance of my granddaughter and her friends, Beatrice and Lisa, running and laughing and playing together one afternoon. Here it is. The laughter of little girls. It is the pleasantest thing in all the world to hear the laughter of little girls, drifting like coloured bubbles into a blue-lit sky, and to see their smiles hitting your eyes like the high beams of fellow travellers that give you a friendly wink, smiling conspiratorially as they pass, anticipating your joy at the colours that will unfurl from the undarkening horizon as you drive into a new dawn. I like to replay that moment over and over again. To capture the joy, I chose the image of coloured bubbles and the blinding image of a car approaching you through the lonely tunnel of the night. Their high beam, as it switches down to acknowledge you, gives you a sense of camaraderie with these fellow adventurers as you flash past each other through the darkness, in the same way that innocent children become fellow adventurers through life, even if the meeting is fleeting. The second poem is about childhood, but I am looking back and recapturing the memory from an adult perspective as I reflect on my own loss of innocence, something we all inevitably go through as the brokenness and ugliness of the world begins to tarnish our open and pure hearts. The catalyst for this poem was a holiday I spent on my auntie's farm, along with another young teenager who was visiting from the city. I used the title Australian Pastoral to evoke the rural scene and anticipate that sense of the idealism of childhood that turns even the harshest landscape into something idyllic that replays in your head like a beautiful melody from the past. It not only tells a story, but reflects on the way that story is seen from a distance as it becomes a moment when childhood and the lessons of literature and life all come together to mean something quite significant. Australian Pastoral. Cheryl Weaver, where are you now, my long-lost childhood friend? Do you remember those lazy, dry days at Point Bell, watching Auntie Yuli milk her beloved cows? Do you remember she knew each one by name? How we marvelled that they came trotting over the rise when she called them, like a row of disciples following in the footsteps of their desert prophetess, over the stony ground dotted with spinifex. When they came to the shed, they waited patiently to be yoked, and for the touch of her hands, reassuring, skilful and gentle, as her deft fingers squeezed the milk into the frothing silver bucket wedged between her legs. We would hang about, smothering the silky calves in buckets of bubbles and wiping them down with rags, as if their lives depended on our motherly solicitations. For their part, I remember they submitted to our attentions with the patient resignation of a first child who understands their mother means well, even though her enthusiasm far outweighs her expertise. With the instinct of the young, they knew that silent submission will put an end to the fuss sooner. Then, in the evenings, we would bundle into Auntie Yuli's big bed like two stowaways on an ancient Roman bark. There, hunkered down in the hold, wide-eyed with excitement, we would set sail through Ulysses' wine-dark sea of the night, speaking seriously to each other in Latin, quite innocent of any sense of incongruity. Do you remember how easily we could make a sentence using agricola? After all, we were on a farm. How fortuitous! And wasn't everyone a boy or girl? And we could talk about a sister, brother, father, mother, as we sailed through our ionic columns of Latin vocabulary. But what to do with foot soldier and centurion? Such questions exercised our imaginations as we lay surrounded by the dark cliffs of enemy wardrobes bearing down on us, and shuddered at the dangers of being shipwrecked in the menacing shadows of the dressing table with its 3 shining sails looming through the dark. You may not remember me, my friend, but this holiday together remains with me like a sailor's souvenir, lovingly protected through the long voyage of life. When I take it out and look at it again, I long to be that innocent child who didn't think there was anything remotely unusual about lying in bed speaking Latin in an isolated farmhouse on the edge of the desert in Australia. Like the whole of life, that memory holds within it the tension between what we lose and what we gain. Blake's Innocence and Experience revisited. Orwell's haunting choice between security or the free pursuit of challenging truth. I choose truth. It's a hard choice, but I choose the truth that also values innocence and seeks to protect it from the cynicism of experience. Though it is ultimately a reflective poem, the objects and activities of country life in the first few stanzas demonstrate the importance of creating strong images in the mind of the reader, so that they can picture the scene and gain a clear sense of the innocence of the girls as they unselfconsciously allow their imaginations to soar as if they are still young children. The celebration of Innocence is followed by a celebration of mercy and grace in Unit 8. Those who have read The Merchant of Venice will recognize immediately the allusion to Portia's famous speech on the quality of mercy. Mercy and Grace, with thanks to William Shakespeare for one of literature's finest lessons. Grace, unmerited favour, is a gift from above, poured out upon us by the God of love. It's a refreshing cup of righteousness and the wine of redemption that quenches our thirst for divine intervention. It's the life-giving loaf offering us satisfaction, not the careless crumbs of condescension. Grace is Portia's mercy, unstrained, soaking us in its gentle rain. Yes, the justice of kings is most like God's when it is tempered with mercy, not meted out with a rod. I am undone, utterly undone, by the mercy and grace of God's only Son. This poem honours the true nature of mercy and grace. It is majestic, yet its majesty is derived from the humility and magnanimity of being merciful, rather than taking advantage of the wrongdoer's humiliation and shaming them. In Song of the Desert Harvest, again the idea of mercy is explored. Song of the Desert Harvest. I thought that when he set you free, you would be free indeed. It is a type of freedom, like drifting on a breeze of light. No whoosh as you drop your bundle and hurtle upwards into a new dimension. No, it's a gentle shedding of old leaves as the seasons pass through the desert to the harvest of honey-coloured crops and faithful vines. As the past falls away, new shoots sprout, green and full of vigour, clinging to thin wire, singing a song of harvest in defiance of the desert heat. It's a song of the breeze, a beautiful, harsh desert song. It's a song of order, a song of purpose, a song of crossing the wilderness triumphantly on thin wire, with all eyes straining for the slip and claiming a share of the victory on the other side. Mesmerized, we are drawn on by the promise of water springing from cracked rocks and rushing to darken the dust with its life until it seeps into our wrinkled souls, weary with walking. And our eyes, blinded from the blazing desert, dare to open wide and behold grapes plump with red wine, tempting us to taste their ripe joy as we would taste a new sunrise. We are bathed in the new dawn, flushed pink with our foolishness. We are confronted with our freedom to receive the compassion of the sun-kissed vine which clings to our taut pride and winds about us, grafting us to itself and bearing the abundant harvest we cannot produce alone. The focus this time is on the fruitfulness of grace. It reproduces. It transforms our circumstances. It bears a harvest that serves others beyond ourselves when it is grafted to the vine of Christ. My lecturer in Victorian literature once announced that you couldn't read Victorian literature without knowing the Bible because of the extensive use of biblical allusions. I hope that modern readers still have some biblical knowledge to bring to a text in order to fully appreciate the symbolism and allusions that help convey the message. Just for fun, see how many biblical allusions you can identify in Songs of the Desert Harvest. I hope you have enjoyed the 4 units in this video. Units 9 to 12 can be found in Volume 3 of the Celebrating the Art of Poetry series. Ciao for now.